Hi, everybody. You can all hear me great. So my focus is to talk about sort of like arts events that took place during the 2017 eclipse, hopefully to give you some ideas of what you can do in your communities. There was a lot happening at Oregon State University, very similar to what we've just heard, but I'm going to focus on the arts and community. I'm really representing three people here. Because this is a collaboration, and I highly recommend you find people who you want to collaborate with as we go through. And Tom's on the call, and he will answer any questions at the Q&A today. So how we approach the arts, we came together really through our love of photography. I teach photography at Oregon State University. So we started off with photography workshops. I'm then going to talk about the community outreach from the Heart of the Valley Astronomy Club. This is an all-volunteer club that did most of the outreach, 50 miles north and south of our area, and the arts activities that took place during the eclipse weekend. So we started off in April doing these photography workshops, teaching people how to make a solar filter, and then teaching them about the eclipse. And that was great because it meant that 5-6 months ahead of time, we were already doing our outreach and already starting talking and preparing people for the eclipse. Information on how to make a solar filter is available on the internet. The companies that sell the solar filter material, there's a couple of them, have information, and it's pretty easy to do. You can make them out of cardboard, but you do have to buy this special solar filter material, which is quite pricey, but we got a big roll of it. And I reckon we ran 9 workshops of 20 to 30 people for about $400, $300 to $400. Of course, our labor was free. As I'm at a university, I was able to sort of like pre-prepare materials using a laser cutter in varying filter sizes, which was fun. And after we'd made the filters, we showed people how to do that. I had students and also members of the astronomy club, Heart of the Valley Astronomy Club, helping people make these filters. And while they were drying, the glue was drying, Tom Carrico gave a presentation on what to expect during the eclipse and also how to photograph the eclipse. And then, of course, we went outside and practiced. And that's the great thing about this. You can actually practice ahead of time. You don't have to wait for the solar eclipse, so you can practice. And we also worked with whatever people turned up with, whether it was their phone or binoculars or whatever. And we used this as an opportunity, of course, for education, handing out the glasses. And really, safety was a massive part of our project. So the lessons they learned, this is a great early way to get the word out about the eclipse. And people love making things. So it was a fun, engaging experience. It began to be a partnership between the sciences, the community, and the art department, which was lovely. We could have run more workshops. And Dr. Erickson mentioned about thinking about what happens after. We just had a pop-up post-eclipse exhibition just because we were having so much fun, and people loved it. And so we posted up people's pictures in a corridor in the art department, and young people and old people, everybody in between, took part and shared their experiences. The Heart of the Valley Astronomy Club was the major community outreach in our area, and it went northwards 50 miles, and I would say quite a broad area they covered. They would set up their solar telescopes at libraries, and you can see here in the middle one of our homemade solar filters on this telescope. And they also started really early on, and remember, this is an all-volunteer organized group, astronomy club. They started 8 months before, talking to people in the governor's office, Travel Oregon, Forest Service, the sheriff, public broadcasting, local libraries, and the like. They met with local business to try and help them understand the impact, and at OSU and at with the Heart of the Valley Astronomy Club, we have materials available in Spanish and English, and I think that's been mentioned before. The club benefited. More people became interested in their star parties, more social media traffic, more community outreach, community interest. And they actually gave over 60 presentations and probably reached about 3,000 people, again, all volunteers, teaching people what to expect during the eclipse. Their lessons learned, and Tom's here for the Q&A, he feels that they should have been standing meetings, so every month, maybe even weekly, so that the community could drop in and learn about what to expect. And now we could have weekly Zoom chats. That wasn't something that we would have considered back then. They would have liked to increase their social media presence, have more safe viewing practice sessions. Tom used to just send an email around saying, "I'm in the park, come join me." And he felt they could have worked closer with organizations like Travel Oregon. During the eclipse weekend, the university had a lot of science organized, and I organized lots of arts activities. Because this was summer, we could use the gallery in the university because there was no programming. And I curated an exhibition that I called Totality to make by artists who make artwork about our cosmos. And it was important to me because Corvallis is a very educated town, if you can say. People knew they were going to come to Oregon State for the science. They didn't really expect to come for the arts, but I really wanted to show how the arts and science work together, and that artists are there and they interrogate really the culture of science. And so I have to say myself, it was a smartly curated exhibition. And at the weekend, we did a ton of arts events, simple things like making cyanotypes, anything that we could relate to the sun. We had poetry writing, which was led by Crowley Driscoll, and he brought sort of like the indigenous perspective of storytelling to the events. And another post-event thing that they did was to publish a booklet of the poetry that was written at the event. So it's, again, this is something that continued after the eclipse event. We did cosmic button making using old Sky and Telescope magazines. And we had storytelling. So a local children's author came along, and the children made up a story about an ant that went into space. We had music events, electronic light shows and music experiences, again, eclipse related. And we had an artist who created a mural and was there present during the entire weekend, talking to visitors as he was painting. And we had an art historical lecture by Dr. Liana Weitzman. And so many of you will probably have at the university a professor who will be able to do a similar kind of talk. And she gave a talk about eclipses in art, historically and more contemporarily. So our lessons learned. The arts at OSU, my university, were involved way too late. I think we weren't even an afterthought. We weren't even considered. It was just happenstance that I'm interested in photography, felt I needed to do something, and then realized that I could do quite a lot because there was a vacuum and it was the summer. So I recommend that you work with artists, secure an art space, hire a curator, allocate a budget for the arts. I really wanted to show the relationship between arts and science, but really from an intellectual side. And that was great for our particular audience. So people came to OSU for the science and the eclipse, but it's also a family occasion. They bring their entire families along. And so our arts activities played a large part in making the arts and the eclipse very family friendly. And I encourage working with collaborators from varying groups. So groups that you maybe not even thinking would want to be involved. Find your collaborators. It's a lot of fun. And we're doing it again, the annular eclipse. We're very fortunate in October the 14th, only 60% chance of cloud on that day. And Dr. Randall Milstein, who may be here for the Q&A if he can, obviously we did a ton of science at OSU, which has been mentioned before. So thank you very much. And I'll stop sharing now. And here's my contact details. And if Tom wants to share his, he'll put it in the chat.